You can actually have a successful church and be neglecting the mission of the church. When I first went to Suncoast Worship Center, before I was touched by Holy Spirit, we had a good church, and I was very busy. I was very proud of how busy I was. And we had a good organizational structure. Things were good. But something was missing. And I think something was missing more in my life than in other people's lives. But something was missing. And some of you heard me tell the story, but I remember the Brownsville revival was taking place, and people were going and getting touched by Holy Spirit. And I didn't want to go. I thought, God is just as much here in my church as He is there. I don't need to go anywhere. And I really believe that. One Wednesday night, one of the young men from our church came in. I was teaching. I finished teaching. He walked up and said, "Pastor, you've got to go to Brownsville. God is there." And I gave him a very good theological answer. I said, God is omnipresent. God is just as much here as He is there. And if He wants to touch me, He can touch me while I'm here. I don't have to go anywhere to get touched, which technically is true. But I went home and told my wife, I said, "Honey, I'm going to go so they'll leave me alone." Been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. I went to Brownsville not out of any anticipation of receiving anything. I didn't go out of any expectation. I just went so I could tell people, I've been there, now leave me alone. That's honestly the reason I went to Brownsville. And I remember driving there. I got there the first night. It was on Thursday. It was about an 8.5-hour drive, something like that. And I got there, and I didn't even go to church Thursday night. And they told me, you've got to get up and get in line early if you want to experience everything. And so I thought, get up and go get in line to get into church? They're not in line to get in my church. But I thought, I want to experience it all. So I got up on Friday morning. I drove on the parking lot at Brownsville Assembly of God. I drove on the parking lot. I put my SUV in park, and when I did, the Lord got in the car with me. Woo! And He began to take my heart in His hand and began to squeeze my heart. And I began to shake and begin to weep. And I thought I was having some kind of a breakdown. I didn't know anything about revival. I didn't know anything about renewal. I didn't know everybody else was a wreck like I was. But I spent maybe an hour or so in the car as God is touching my heart. I could have gone home at that moment. And keep this in mind when it comes to impartation. I could have gone home. Nobody prayed for me that day. Nobody prayed for me the next day. No one laid hands on me. No one even spoke to me while I was at Brownsville. But I drove home Saturday afternoon to get ready for Sunday morning, and I was changed. I put together my first message on revival called The 10 Pillars of Revival, and it was a horrible message. I mean, it was terrible. I preached it one time. I've never preached it again. You'll never hear me preach it. Not like it's put together right now. But God showed up. And I made a decision at that point. I was going to go after God. I was going to stay after Him. And I was going to make the main thing the main thing.
Hey guys, we'll be right back to the message. I just wanted to let you know that Voice of the Apostles, one of our flagship conferences, is happening soon. We have amazing speakers, including Bill Johnson, Heidi Baker, Dr. Randy Clark, and many others. We'd love to see you there in person. But if you can't make it, you can also attend online. Click the link to learn more. Now back to the message.
So we can be busy and we can build good churches, pastors, and not be mission focused. So one of the things is just life. Another one, a very simple, is the warfare we're involved in. It will get us all focused on the mission. We're involved in a warfare. And I don't have time to take you through the scriptures. But our struggle is not against flesh and blood, against the rulers, the authorities, the powers of this dark world, and spiritual forces evil in the heavenly realms. We're involved in a warfare. And the warfare can be so wearying that we end up off mission. Thirdly, we can be overwhelmed with fear, and it can keep us from being focused on the mission. Fearful of the assignment, fearful of that God's going to let us down, fearful of the fact that He's not going to show up. And so we end up living or doing ministry with a heart of fear. In fact, did you know that fear can paralyze you? You don't want to be a part of a troop of soldiers that's paralyzed by fear. And you don't want to be a part of a body that's paralyzed by fear. But fear is paralyzing. I remember as a young boy, I was about maybe 11, 12 years old. And the youth group of my church, they wanted to go walk around. It was dark. And they didn't really want me to go. But they were going to go walk around. They were older, 17, 18. I think one of them was 19 years old. And they wanted to go walk in the graveyard. Why, I don't know. So we went walking in the graveyard. It wasn't far from the church. And I thought, all right, here's what I'm going to do. So I dropped behind. They never knew that I was behind. I circled around and got in front of them and knelt down behind a tombstone, big gravestone. And when they got even with me, I jumped out and screamed. And this older guy, he began to run. He's running in place. He's not going anywhere, but his feet, like a cartoon. His feet were just spinning. And I thought it was hilarious till he started having epileptic seizure. I almost scared the poor guy to death. I didn't know he had seizures, but he went into having seizures. Fear paralyzed him. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I remember when I was about 23, 24 years old, I was the administrator of a Christian school. I wasn't much older than the kids were. And I took the students on a senior trip, the seniors, and I took them we visited some things and went to South Carolina where my family was. And I decided, they kept wanting to do something scary. Now again, I'm the administrator of a Christian school, and we're talking about doing things scary. So I began to tell them about this grave, and it really had a tombstone back in the 1800s, way down in the woods. But I worked it out with the class president that we were going to partner in this. And so I got with my brother, who was a wildlife officer, and I told him, I said, you go down after it gets dark with your gun. Because I told him, you guys got to be quiet, because there's a guy down here who will shoot you if you're not quiet. And guess what these young kids did as we were going down to see the grave? They weren't quiet. They were laughing and joking and making fun. And so at a signal, my brother begins to shoot his gun into the air. And I had it scheduled. I had it worked it out with the senior president to fall, grab his chest, and fall on the ground. So my brother starts shooting the gun. He grabs his chest, falls on the ground, and his girlfriend, who was standing beside him, she faints. Listen, fear is paralyzing, but fear can get us off. I've said all that to say this. It can get you off focus of the mission. And then one more I'm going to mention, and I don't have time to develop it, is that we can be overwhelmed with weariness. There's nothing wrong with being weary, but there can be a weariness that's dangerous. I shouldn't have even brought it up. There can be a weariness that leaves you vulnerable to the attack of the enemy. There are different kinds of weariness. I actually ended up suffering from adrenal fatigue, and it was not a pleasant experience. You can end up with such a deep weariness. Pastors, listen to me. Everybody, if you're involved in ministry, be aware that rest is a biblical idea. I'll try it over here. Rest is a biblical concept. It is a biblical idea. I looked up scriptures about rest, and I was so amazed at how important rest was. So be aware that weariness can get you off focus, can get you off mission. What I want to do is, as we have a little bit of worship, I've got about 7 minutes here, 8 minutes. I want to encourage you to have a new set of priorities, that there will be and again, within these priorities, there are different assignments. I'm not saying throw out your call, but I'm asking you to recommit yourself to making disciples. What if all of us went out with a call, that we had an encounter with God so powerful that we decided we were going to go out and make disciples of all nations, which begins with one. And if there's something in your life that's keeping you off focus, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's other things, maybe it's a relationship issue. We're going to deal with that right now. Would you stand? I really rushed through this, but I hope you caught the passion behind the message itself. That if we want to be mission ready, we will be a people who exemplifies the life of Jesus, that we carry on his mission, and that we fulfill those simple verses, Matthew 28, that we go and make disciples. Do it intentionally. Develop your own strategy that fits your context of ministry, that fits your situation. There is no one strategy that works in every situation. But go, churches, go and make disciples.